Members of the company, this is your places call. Places, please. Places for the top of the podcast. Places, please.
Get ready for a behind-the-scenes look at the glitz and not-so-glam of Broadway, education, and everyday life with Uncommon Sense. Join hosts Christopher Smith and Charna Lopez as they bring you the best stories and shenanigans that seemingly prove how elusive common sense can really be. So take a little time for yourself to hang out with the dynamic duo Charnopher, and no leaving early, because you might just miss that 11 o'clock number.
Stand by music. Music, go.
Uncommon sense, the 11 o'clock number. And we are Charnopher.
Ta-da!
Welcome to Uncommon Sense, the 11
right.
o'clock number. We are here today. Oh, I have like a reporter voice today. We are here today.
I think you always have a reporter voice.
I like it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's what your training is in.
It's just in. It's just in right now.
In you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Charna Lopez, and I am joined by some fabulous people today. But Christopher Smith's always here. He's part of Charnopher.
I am.
But I have, wait for it. I mean, if you're watching, it's like not exciting because she's right there. But if you're listening, today we have my sister, the one and only Kelly Felthous, on our podcast. And she's the best. And I love doing disclaimers because I like being real. We're trying a new platform today, and it did not do us well a minute ago. We were having a great episode. It was actually going super great. And then we had to start over.
So here we are, starting over.
That was very funny before. If I'm not funny this time, it's Christopher's fault.
I mean, that's kind of like what I was like, hey, it was going so well. Anyway, we're back. And I'm going to try and remember what I said, because I also thought what I said was great. Not just Kelly, me too. Sister rivalry. Never, ever.
She's always better than me. She's smarter. She's funnier. Let's be real.
Come on. No way.
No, you are.
You're so silly. Thank you. What specifically?
She's way smarter. Okay. Way funnier.
Christopher
I'm going to take more
be
flexible
here
because that's a given.
I told him, I said,
that's the only one I win.
Sit this one out. Oh, flexibility. That's a story. We'll get there. Okay. First and foremost, when Christopher and I, now I'm trying to be serious and I'm going to laugh. When Christopher and I decided to do this, truly, in all honesty, we sat down and we were kind of getting topics and what we want to do. And I was like, we got to interview. And at the same time, we're like, your sister. Yeah. I was like, my sister. Because, well, first of all, she's super entertaining and I love hanging out with her. Number one. Number two, I like your story. I like your journey. And I think that you have a lot of insight to share, not only with like, we teach students, and I love when you share with my students and I can pass that along to them. But I also think parents who are listening to this, who might have younger kids or, young adult kids who are trying to find their way in this industry. I also think you have a lot of different things you've done. And I love hearing you talk about why you do what you do, or talking about how you've gotten through certain things. Funny stories, always my favorite. So we're going to hear a lot of that today. It might be 3 episodes long. That's okay, because my sister is here. We have her, and she's very, very busy. So I appreciate you taking time, Kel.
You make me sound so important. Very, very busy. Very busy.
She is. And the fact that we could nail you down and have this time with you. So I know, and I speak on behalf of both of us, I appreciate you taking the time to chat with us and just share about yourself and share and have a little fun day today. So thank you. And welcome, Kelly Felthous.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. I'm on a podcast. I'm a star. I feel really excited.
To start, Keebs, I would love for you to do quick like Cliff Notes bio of like you, kind of where you grew up, how you got where you are, et cetera, et cetera. So you're on.
I was born in Panorama City.
on a
On a
dreary.
chilly Friday the 13th. It wasn't a Friday. I like to pretend it was. It was a Thursday the 13th, but shh.
just fudge
Nobody
it.
needs to know. No, I'm Kelly. I grew up in California, and I was a normal, cute, awesome child with a wonderful sibling named Charna. And I was really lucky that I found what I loved right away. I love doing theater. I love dancing. Our mom owned a dance studio, so we were like right there from day one, pushed out and was tippity-tappeting. But I did a tour when I was at the age of like 10, super young. I did Sound of Music. I was Pagita, world's best role. She has the most lines. I counted them. Don't you worry. And that was kind of the start of my professional career at the lovely age of 10. And I continued to work at places like Theater in Old Town. I got to do Ruthless. I did Jane Eyre at La Jolla Playhouse. I got to originate that. And I really just got to do a bunch of awesome things, and went to high school and was like, you know what? Let's do some regional gigs. Let's be a cheerleader. Let's be on the debate team. Let's crush life. And I did. And I also had to follow in my sister's footsteps, who did everything in high school and was like super smart and had a 4.68 GPA. And I had to do just as good, if not better. So thank you,
This is why I brought her on here, to make me feel better about myself.
No, but it's true. I
There you
remember
go.
my sister, so we'll
You're
get into that,
silly.
but dance team, she was at my tryouts, and I was like, I didn't even care if I made it. I was like, I cannot disappoint my sister. I must be good for Charna. It was like the only thing I could think about before across the floor auditions. I was like, my sister,
You're silly.
I'm her legacy. And then after high school, I went to NYU, where I majored in, guess what? Musical theater. Yeah. And was fortunate enough to work during school. I did a few off-Broadway plays during school, which was so fun. I did Seussical, get the original off-Broadway album on iTunes.
That's a great album. That's a great album, Cal.
It's so fun, and it's short and fun. Your kids can listen to it. And then I did the first national tour of Grease, the musical, and did Flashdance, the musical, on tour. I did Wicked. And then I was really lucky to get to originate a bunch of characters and do a bunch of regional shows where I got to play and do this as a living, which is crazy. And I've been fortunate enough to get to work, which, like, as an actor is the dream, to just work.
It's everything.
It really is. And I know, Cal, we'll maybe probably talk about like pandemic and getting out, moving out of the pandemic and everything. But I know you're right now. I know I said you're busy, but truly you're like booked back to back.
I'm a little on fire. I'm not going to lie. My poor agents are always like, another one? I'm like, I
But
know.
it's
What
so
happened?
great
4 days
to
off
see that.
between.
I know, and you're here talking with us. So again, I appreciate you. Okay, total nutshell of Kelly, and a million other things too. One thing that you did not mention is that you have done some teaching, which I love too, because I think Christopher and I, as educators, you can see when someone, a performer, there's a difference between performing and teaching, obviously, and we love teaching performers because I think they have a different outlook when they do things. They have that sense of giving back, and they have the humbleness of, I'm a performer, and yes, I do these things, but I also want to share that with whether it be adults or kids or whatnot. So I know you have some of that as well under your belt.
Oh, I love teaching.
I know you do. And Kelly,
I
so
love
the
coaching.
energy,
It's my favorite.
clearly energy is a thing. We joke, people who meet me sometimes, then like they'll say, "Oh, Charna, gosh, you have so much energy. You're so energetic. Where do you get all that energy?" And I literally, I'm like, "Have you met my sister?" Because
Y'all, I haven't even had coffee yet. No coffee yet. This is natural.
If you go somewhere with Kelly, like let's say New York, where she lived for years and years, and you visit her, you need to be ready to. You're not going to walk the streets of New York. You will be jogging or possibly sprinting through areas.
It's like the
city.
Disneyland walk. The Disneyland run.
She is like, her body goes as fast as her brain and her mouth too. And so you're just constantly like, gotta go. But I love it because I think we feed off of each other for sure. And I think you bring that to the stage and you bring it to a rehearsal room and to a cast. And I know that feeling because we have done shows together.
We have.
I'm going to talk about that show first, Kelly, if you don't mind, because
Please.
It's the last show Kelly and I did together on stage, was Dames at Sea. And it's it holds like a special place in my heart because it was fun. Kelly was still pretty young. We were 16.
16.
That's the last time we did a show together. But
Too
we had
Oh, you
long ago.
guys.
I know, but we had so much fun. And I think because it was an older, that kind of classic style musical theater, like cheesy and all the tap dancing, which is our thing. And I remember I would just stand in the wings and watch her. I know she just talked about how like at auditions, she's like, I can't disappoint my sister. I would watch her and be like, oh my gosh, like I think it was a very mature moment for you as a performer because you were young and you had to play the lead and opposite older people. And I just remember being like, wow, she's like made this kind of change over into being like a professional young adult. And we had so many shenanigans during that show. We had so much fun.
Well, I think it was the first show I played a grown-up, like a normal aged human, not a child. That wasn't in like a kid's show, you know. Even then I think I still always played kids in kids shows because I am 5'0" and will always read as a child. But
4'10".
4'10", that's the story of my life. No, but I remember, okay, I don't even know if I'm allowed to say all this, but here it goes. Edit it if you must. But I remember before we even started rehearsal, we had a photo shoot for it in the studio.
Yep.
And
with the
you
boat?
were like, with the boat and like with the couples.
Yeah.
And I remember you were like, how old? If I was 16, you were 20?
20. Yeah.
20? Yeah. So you had like been kissed and lived a life and had a boyfriend. And like, so you did the dip with your sailor guy. And I was like, yeah, my sister's crushing it. Then you get a cute kiss. And then I got up and I was like, uh-oh. I remember like, there's all these grown-ups and I'm like, I'm still in high school. I've never played a grown-up. And they're like, okay. And so then you and Christian kiss. And I'm like, what do we do? We do what? We kiss? Wait, what? It's not in the show yet. And I remember like stressing out and looking at you and you just were like all happy in the corner, like laughing at me. And I was like fully blushing, stressing out. And I was so scared because I was like, wait, I have to be a grown-up in this. Like everyone's an adult. And Kelly, you have to be an adult too. So I remember kissing Christian Hoff and being like, this is the best day of my life. And then being like, you're a professional. Do not pretend that you like this. It's a photo. It's a photo. And then I remember going home being like, I love theater.
Oh my gosh. See, and that's how it works. Sometimes you just have to step into it and
fake it till you make it, kids. Fake it till you make it.
Keebs, question. Okay, I have 105 questions. Christopher, please chime in if you want because I'll try.
I know. I will only take 104. Only 104. But I do feel like I need to be serious with all of you right now because now I'm matched.
Yes.
Now I'm officially an adult on a podcast.
If you're just listening and not watching, Christopher and I have our glasses on today, and Kelly felt left out, so she just put on her adorable glasses to match us. I feel like
from Target, purchase them now.
Adorbs.
You're so cute. Except the difference is Christopher and I really need our glasses. I think you look more like
I only need mine to read from like a close distance.
Got it. Okay, Cal.
Yes.
I have seen you do a million things. And I've loved all of them. I think a huge highlight for me was seeing you play Glenda on the Wicked tour for sure. Like proud sister moment. I saw Flashdance. I saw Grease. I've seen a lot of your tours. I saw you do Chicago was one of my favorite roles that you played when you played Roxy in Chicago. I hate asking for favorite roles because I know there's like usually different things you like about different roles. But if you could maybe find one or two or maybe experiences and why you had such a good experience as that role or in that show, what would you say those were?
Okay, I love this. I get this. I feel like this is the question everyone asks.
I figured you were prepared.
My answer does change. I feel like depending on how old I am, like as I get older, different experiences I feel like make me happier now. That in the moment I was like, whatever, and now I'm like, that was magical. As I get older, as I work different types of jobs, I think Sally Bowles in Cabaret was life changing for me, mostly because it's dark. Like it's hard. And as again, 5 foot blonde, bubbly little girl, I tend to get the very funny, fun, happy, girly roles. And it was really like even Roxy is that in that show. Do you know what I mean? Between her and Velma, she's more of the quirky, fun, silly one. And I think it was really interesting getting to do Sally because our director, Katie Spellman,
wanted it to be very raw and real. So I felt like I literally had to have this emotional breakdown on stage. And the way she directed it was like, have you ever been that performer when you go on stage and you're like, I have to smile and all I want to do is cry? And I was like, yes, my whole life has been.
I feel seen. I feel seen.
And so to get to like, to have to like go through that on stage every night. And then by the end of that number, just get to cry in silence was cathartic and scary and challenging and awesome. And it felt, I feel like the most I've ever been like naked on stage. I feel like other than that, I'm always a character. And it felt the most honest moment for me. So I think that was one I really enjoyed.
Love that. And I'm like still kicking myself that I never got to see you do that role. There's that picture of you. I don't know if it was on like a promo or something, but that picture of you with a Sally Bowles hat and you like posed. And I'm like, what?
That's mine hair.
Star. And why did I not go see it? I don't know. I was doing 100 things and having children
You're
or something.
busy. You like run a program in a school and a blah.
But I love that, Keebs. And that's really cool because honestly, knowing you and maybe a lot of people who know you or follow you or have seen you in things might not think that. They might think, oh, Glinda, or this role that's like the
everyone thinks Elle Woods is going to be like the thing. And like,
and
it was
that you
fun.
didn't enjoy it. Yeah.
No,
exactly.
It was so much fun. And that's something like as I got older, I feel like Sally Bowles would have been like, that was cute. I got to dance. And now that I'm older, I'm like, wow, that was hard. Like that was.
Would you also say that it was the most I was going to say, is it the most difficult, or can you think of another track or another show that was really like maybe physically taxing for you or difficult?
I think Chorus Line was physically difficult because you're just on and you're standing there the whole time. And I, the day before opening, had burnt my hands on a curling iron and had to stand with my hands on my back the whole time. And I remember just being in like 2 hours of torture. Yeah, that was awful. And I had it wrapped and it was like blistering.
I didn't hear that story.
Oh yeah, because my mirror fell on me and I went to like catch it and I put my hand on a curling iron like an idiot. Day before opening.
Will you tell the story about how when your heel got caught in the track on stage during, was that Trip of Love?
Which time? I've had my heel caught in a track a few times.
I think it was Trip of Love when like the I don't know if the psych was coming in or one of the drops was coming in and like your heel got stuck in the track. Didn't the thing like come down on you? No.
Oh yeah, and it hit me in the shoulder because I couldn't move off the stage. Yeah,
and then you had to keep going.
I had to keep going. Yes, and I was like, I looked like Quasimodo because I was in so much pain. I've had so many weird things. I did Max and Ruby, which no one would think would be a hard show, but it's 90 minutes. I originated Max and Ruby, which is a Nickelodeon TV show, and I originated the show in New York as Ruby, but Max is mute. So Ruby literally is doing 90 minutes of the talking, and we were in these.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Max is mute. He's a physical comedy star, but I had to talk and sing for 90 minutes in this TYA show. And we're wearing, I can't believe I'm saying this. We're wearing these like egg-shaped fat suits to look like these bunnies. Because Nickelodeon was like, you have to look like the cartoons. So they went through.
And I get that because at the time it was pretty like popular and kids would be like, why does that girl not look like Ruby? Yeah.
Yeah. So like we wore little bunny hats and like I had this egg fat suit. And the egg fat suit was very hard to get into. And you had white tights underneath it and like all your like things you had to wear. And I remember starting the show and I was like, I'm good. And I'm looking for Max. Have you seen him going past? Look, funny. Yeah. And all of a sudden, Charna knows I have the world's smallest bladder. And to get through a 90-minute show, you chug some water. So all of a sudden, I'm like, I have to pee like real bad, like really, really bad. And I run off stage to get a new prop and I go, I have to go to the bathroom. I have to go to the bathroom. I have to go now. I have to go now. Can we stall? Can someone like ad-lib? Someone do something? And my dresser literally goes, we can dry clean your fat suit. So I, at the wonderful age of like 21, actively knew I was wetting my pants in a fat suit to do the rest 60 minutes of the rest of the show in my own urine.
I'm obsessed with this. I've never heard this story.
I had to tell this to one of our little Olivers who had an incident on stage and was like crying about it. And I was like, I put my pants twice. I was like, you're fine, kid.
I peed my pants twice on stage too, Kelly. I feel like it's a thing.
It happens.
She has like a built-in diaper. That's like
But also then you're like living in your own pee for 60 minutes.
So does that mean that at that point you switched to doing Urinetown? Like,
I mean, yes, I did Urinetown in a bunny outfit essentially.
You come out and you're like, we're doing a new show, friends.
What is Urinetown? It's what I'm living in. But so that's challenging.
Have you
I did
done your in town?
Yeah, I did Little
That's right.
Sally in college.
You've done everything. Question.
Yes, answer.
That's why I'm here. I'm the question lady. Is there a role that you have not played? And maybe it can be something like even when you're older or whatever. Look, she's ready. She's like, I'm
I
ready.
have two. I have two answers.
Tell me, what are they?
Peter Pan, which my sister got to play, and I was so jealous. It is my dream. It is my dream.
It's
Mostly because I love children. I love working with children, and like you get to be a child with the
Yes.
children.
Kelly, you know what's so interesting? And this is real talk. When people ask me what's the hardest role or thing that I've ever done, it's Peter Pan, 100%. And I'm gonna be honest, I had like total imposter syndrome with that show where I was kind of like, I can't. This is not me. I should be playing Tiger Lily. And
Which
I
had to play, and I didn't get to play Peter when I was a kid, and I'm still angry about it. It's okay.
bitter party of one over there. But I remember being really proud of that role. Same situation with having to pee in that role and being in a harness and flying.
Ooh.
But Kelly, I will say what you mentioned about kids and loving kids and never grow up. There are two moments in that show that get me every single time. Singing Neverland on stage. I was young or in my 20s, probably late 20s, mid to late 20s when I did that role. And I remember being so emotional. And the scene that still gets me, I mean, even think about it right now, like now having kids, when at the end Peter comes back to get Jane and then says to Wendy, you're all grown up. And then they fly out the window and I'm like, oh good.
I remember watching you do that role. I came to see it. And I was first started with jealousy because I was not okay. And then ended though, by the time you were clapping for Tink, I remember just like sobbing and being like, my sister's saving Tinkerbell. She's saving her. Like full on crying in the audience.
And that's honestly, that was not a professional production. We had a few equity members. It was a great show. And we have a VHS of it that I turned into a DVD and the kids watch it. Like Emma and Ruby watch it. And even watching it back, it's like, I don't know, there's something like super nostalgic about that show. And that closing moment is like, it's like for the world. I want it to be like, everybody listen to that. Like, it's Peter Pan. You're like, cute, Peter Pan. But I agree, Kel, you playing that role, I think it would be transformative for you, which is funny, but I really do think it would be.
Be excited to say that because they're like, really? Of all the roles, you've played all these roles? And I'm like, yeah, but I want that one. I want to get to look at little kids on stage and get them to like rally and be excited and like show them what it's like to like give 120% every show. We just, I just did Matilda, what I just came from literally a night ago, with a bunch of, not joking, with a bunch of children. And we had two different casts. And I was kind of sad that I didn't get to play a role that interacted with them too much. But the cool part was getting to kind of be a role model for them backstage and in rehearsals. And I would play all these games with them. And I would literally, every time I'd stand in the wings during Revolting Children, I'd be like, come on, we got this. We're revolting. Yeah. RVOL. And they were like, yeah, Kelly, come on. I was like, because they would just look like they were dead half the time. And I was like, you got to push through, guys. Got to push through. I was like, we can do it. And I would like be there in the wings with them. And they were the sweetest humans I've ever met. And they just wanted to talk all about the business. And I was like,
yeah, and they're gonna, Kelly, they're gonna remember that. But they're gonna remember that. They're gonna be on a podcast when they're in their 30s, and they're gonna be like, "Oh my gosh, when I did Matilda when I was younger, there was this awesome girl, and she was." But it's true, and I think Christopher and I find that a lot in when we teach, when we direct, when we do shows where we might be pulling our hair out and secretly punching children in the face in our head, and then you're like, you have a good moment and you're like, this is what it's about. And that's what it's about. It's about those moments where you're like, this is going to mean something to this kid 10 years from now, 20 years from now, whatever it may be, and having that experience. Okay. I'm circling back. What's the other role? Peter Pan.
The other role, Peter Pan. And then I want someone to make Election the musical so I can be Tracy Flick. Because I feel like Reese Witherspoon and I in that movie are very similar. I would never kill someone. I feel like spoiler if you haven't watched the movie.
It's going to be made eventually. Every movie is being made into a musical. So just we're putting that out into the world. If that's made,
I'm almost
Kelly Felthous,
so do it quick. And I will say, going off of that, originating roles is something I love to do. But going back to my last one of the two that I think were the hardest for me, most challenging / favorite, you were asking originally.
Mhm.
Sally Bowles I loved because it was challenging, and I think I got to really be emotional and show a side of a character that a lot of people don't see. My other one was Bring It On.
Yeah.
Mostly because I originated it. So they were writing things, we were getting new things all the time. And something really scary about originating something, especially like I did Flashdance, but there was a movie. So you kind of like could watch it and like the whole thing. And Bring It On, there's movies, but not of this show. And what was so interesting about it was you're like, I have to create this from nothing. Like normally you're like, ooh, let me watch a bootleg of so-and-so. Let me steal from this. Let me take a little of this. Ooh, you know what she reminds me of? Marilyn Monroe. I'll take some of that. Like you have these characters that people are built off of. But when you have something brand new, you're like, I'm building it. This is my responsibility.
Yeah.
And that was exciting, scary. And then on top of that component, you had the cheerleading. So I learned how to do a standing back tuck. I had to do full stunts. So out of my element. I can dance with the best of them, but I didn't know how to do a standing back tuck. So like learning
How long did you
new
have
skills.
to learn that, Cal? Your
I learned
standing
a
back
standing
tuck?
back tuck in a week and a half.
Insane. Insane.
It was
So
crazy.
I didn't realize that you originated that
Yeah.
role.
I
That was
did.
new information for me right now.
I got to go
in
and see that
Atlanta
one.
at the Alliance.
And
Which was
Kel,
so cool.
That was a really great first production that I saw that really incorporated projections. And now flash forward to 2023 and everyone and their mom and every show is projection. But I remember going to see you in that and really like being intrigued by that kind of change in the scenic element of musicals. And I was like, whoa, I really enjoyed that. The choreography in that show was really, really great. I loved watching you do that show.
I mean, it's Andy Blankenbuehler who's like, hello.
Magical. and now correct me if I'm wrong, Kel, but in that show, and I don't know, once I went to Broadway, I'm sure they did the same thing, but they had hired professional cheerleaders to also be part of that ensemble. And I know that was kind of an interesting take too, because these cheerleaders are like, we're singing, like, what are we doing?
Well, that's what was so cool about it. Again, like, it's so funny because you asked me my two favorite shows to be in, and I don't think either of them were actually because of the show itself, which is silly to like say that they were my favorite shows. But like you said, with Bring It On, half our company were cheerleaders that have never done theater in their life. And so it was kind of cool because it was a weird, even playing field. Like I would be like, that's a C. See how the notes go up? This is why we're going to sing up. Like, which is cool to like kind of teach someone like, oh yeah, wait, this is where I'm good at something. And then you flip into the choreography and you're like, what's a what? What am I doing? A koopy? A hoop? Uh-huh. And like, you know, they're sitting there doing like round off, back handspring, back layout, back whatever, like it's nothing. And you're like, I can do a cartwheel. like so it was
incorporation of that was really cool. I think it was quite successful and they did a good job with it for sure.
And I will say, as you know about my energy, I'm also like big team spirit human. Like I do a thing called Sticker Saturdays. Anyone who's been in a show with me in the past 7 years probably knows about Sticker Saturdays.
Wait, I don't know about it. Tell me all about it.
I give stickers out every Saturday to every person for making it through the week. And now you're downhill for the weekend. And it has a song, Sticker Saturday. It's Sticker Saturday. Hi.
Say what?
Sticker Saturday. Yeah, you just kind of go. And I do it. I started it oddly, which is so funny because Charna, I can't believe you didn't know this. When I was on tour, they gave us stickers. And then when I got older, I realized I was like, I need a sticker. I made it through the week. And no one gave me stickers. Really? And I know I was a grown up, but I was like, it was actually during right before Chicago. It was the show before Chicago, and I remember being like, I'm tired, and that was hard, and I want a sticker because I did it.
Where's my sticker?
And no one's giving me a sticker because I'm not a kid anymore. So I started doing Sticker Saturday.
This idea. Now I will say,
and the last sticker is of me, so you can collect stickers of me as the character. Like this.
That's even better. I will say, in our world, we don't do these longer runs. You know what I mean? So I feel like it might even be like a cool rehearsal thing where we've made it through like 2 weeks of rehearsal or something. I might implement that.
Well, I do it every rehearsal and every show week.
Oh my gosh.
You can count your time by how many stickers you have.
And we got the song down. We could totally do it. I have a question though, because this reminds me of what show is it that you guys had like moving mole Thursday or moving mole where you guys would move your beauty marks on
that was in Chicago.
Chicago.
No, we do Chicago. I mean, lots of people do it. It's like Super Mole Saturday is what they call it.
And
it's like a big theater thing. You can do it all the time. Lots of shows do it.
And like, I had never heard of it. And then, when you're a patron and you're watching the show, you're not looking for something like that. And then the second she mentioned it, I was like, oh my gosh, everybody has
It's
a
there.
mole and it's moving around their face for every
Yeah.
scene.
You got it on long runs. You got to keep yourself active.
Totally.
I would actually love for you to talk about that, Kelly. How do you keep things interesting when you're doing something 8 shows a week or, things like that?
So I love this question because I will say I did Grease for 2 years. Grease, the musical. For
That's a long
2
time.
years.
Grease is the word.
Very long time. That you heard. It's got groove. It's got zero. Yeah, and I think it's so funny because I love that. Someone once said you Felthoused it, and I said, what does that mean? Is it good? Did I do something good? And they're like, yeah, you made this. You did the same line but 45 different ways, and they all made sense. And I do think it's like my favorite thing in the world to do is find out how many different ways you can do something that are still justified. Like I love that. It's why I love rehearsal more than shows, to be honest. I love rehearsing. I'm like, I'll go to a put-in. I'll go to a rehearsal. What do you want me to do? Because I love playing. I love it so much. And I think that's kind of what you have to remember. Even it's interesting. Even just in Matilda that I just did, it only ran 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 5 weeks. I don't even know. It ran. We got extended. It was awesome. But the guy I played opposite is so sweet. And he was like, I love being on stage with you because I never know what you're going to do. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm not. And he's like, no, you're consistent. Like you're always in the same spot. You're always saying the same line. But somehow it's just like, what is going to happen today? And I was like, and he's like, I love it though, because it's kept me like on my feet. And I was like, but that's how it should be because, you're not always going to feel the same way you go on stage. And I think acting is acting. And I love that I get to be different people, but you do have to bring parts of yourself to everything. And I think my biggest thing is getting to be like, you know what, today I can't cry. So this scene is not going to be as weepy sad as it normally is. So what's another way to feel these feelings with how I'm feeling now? And sometimes you find these amazing moments that you're like, whoa, I never thought that was going to be that way. And I think that's how you keep it fresh is every day you go on and you go, okay, well, how am I feeling today? How can I say these words? Because you don't get bored in your normal everyday life. And we live every day for now 37 years. You know what I mean? And like, I eat almost the same breakfast every morning, but like someday I'll throw in a little avocado. And one day I'm like, you know what? Let's mix that cheese up and put some mozz on there. And it's like, that's kind of what I feel like with theater is it's like, you can do the same thing every day and just add a little touch of something else or carry yourself a different way. There's a saying in an acting form of like, I don't remember if it's Meisner or whatever. It's not Meisner, but it's called kill your babies. We now call it kill your darlings to be more politically correct. But you're supposed to take things that you love that have always gotten laughs and go, die, bye. Because you're relying on something that worked once in a rehearsal room that maybe that day doesn't work. There's this line in Matilda that our young little Matilda Callie was very good at saying. Mrs. Wormwood goes, Russians are nocturnal. And then she goes, and I go, I saw it on a program last night. And she goes, that was about badgers. That was a program about badgers. And then I go, same thing. And every night it was different because I was like, you know what is this audience feeling today? And Callie would always be like, I never know what you're going to do. And I was like, I know, but like the audience sometimes wants to laugh at you and sometimes they don't. And so like there'd be nights when she'd go, that was about badgers. It was a program about badgers. And I'd go, same thing, and walk away. And there was some nights when she goes, that was a program about badgers, And I'd literally do a slow, same thing. And like, it just depended on if like the audience was laughing when I made that first face. I was like, oh, you're in. I'm going to milk this. I'm going to take my time. And like, you get to play off of everything that's going on, either in the audience, on stage, different people's energies. And I feel like that's why theater is so cool compared to TV and film.
Look how excited she gets. This is I love. I actually think that's a really good. I do like a second night speech with our students where like if something got a laugh the first night, I'm like, the reason it got a laugh is because of the way you did it. Don't change it. But I actually like that take of like, I also say you can't hear smiles because a lot of the younger kids, they're like, it's a bad audience. This is a bad audience. I'm like, it's not a bad audience. They're different. And like you said, Kel, maybe that audience doesn't feel that moment or that beat. And so you can, kind of have that little bit of wiggle room. I think that totally tracks.
I think consistency and technique is so important. And there's times, Matilda the musical is literally like one of the highest adrenaline for that role. And there were times when I'd come off stage and I'd be like, this audience sucks. And I'm like, Kelly, I'm like, okay, now when you're not feeling the audience and you're not feeling like you're getting any inspiration from anywhere, that's when you have to go, okay, rely on the technique. You have to know the line of like, you can't just speed through things and have them not make sense. You know, you have to do a blend of observing what's happening and feeling that out and relying on technique and direction in what you're doing. Like I can't cross the stage and do a whole different thing, but I can take a different breath. I can have a different intention. I can make that turn a little slower. Like I can't do a whole new scene, but you can play, you can like, it's like how many drops of vanilla you're putting in your coffee. Like it's that. You still vanilla latte, but are we putting 2 pumps or 3? Like that's kind of what I think about with
today.
Yeah, with playing.
I like that. Other question.
Yeah.
If you could go back and tell your like 16-year-old, 18-year-old self, or like if you could do something differently, is there anything that maybe you would have done differently or that you could give yourself advice like on your journey?
I would take ballet.
Hey, Ruby May, are you listening? Ruby May, are you listening?
Ballet. I hate, me and Charna both hated ballet.
I still kind of do.
I still do too. I don't want to take it, but we should because again, important. It's the same thing. Paying attention in acting classes, like technique is always going to be the foundation for things. So like learn, and that way you can play later. Like you can't play if you have no foundation.
Right.
And that's what I think.
That's great advice, Kel. I love that.
Thanks. But that's why I think like for you, even with your kids, it's like, yeah, they probably need to follow direction and do the same thing a little more than I do because they're just learning. Whereas like once you get to a point where you're like, I know the base, I know all the technique, I know why I'm doing what I'm doing. I've mapped out this scene. I've done all my verbs. I've done all my intentions. I know where I'm going, where I'm coming from. I know the element of surprise in the scene. I know my obstacle in the scene. Once you know all of that and you do all the work and you do all the hard crap, ballet, once you do ballet, then you get to have fun on top of it and like live your life and do the Fosse and do all the fun stuff over it and do the character dancing. And I think I wish I had taken ballet because I love dancing. It's like my happy place and it's so freeing. And I'm limited because I didn't establish flexibility. I didn't establish good turnout. I didn't establish that at such a young age. You don't get to talk
about flexibility.
I beat Charna in flexibility. I'm
the most unflexible person in the land.
Okay, but we need to talk about flexibility. I feel like Charna said something about. We'll get to that.
I have a great story about it.
This is that moment.
I do. And Kel, were you at the Crazy for You audition? No, you were not old enough.
No, I was too small. I dressed you.
You did. Wait, that's another story we have to talk about. Okay, so Crazy for You, probably one of my favorite shows that I've done as well. Huge dance show, and we did mostly original choreography, which is super fun and all is storytelling and really, I really felt like I grew in that show a lot. However, at the audition, it's a big tap show, which tap. It's a huge tap show, and I am a tapper. If you need musical theater,
a very good tapper.
Yes, you are.
I am very
She's
confident
a very good
in that.
Tapper.
Thank you, Kel. I've taught it for years. I've choreographed so many things. I feel very confident in my tap dancing, especially musical theater tap, not rhythm tap. That's another story for another podcast. Oof. But I came into the Crazy for You audition, and I kind of knew the show, and I knew there's a lot of tap dancing, so I'm like feeling confident, and I'm like, yeah, so they're going to teach us the combo. And I, of course, go to the front. I always like going to the front, even if I'm not confident because I want to be able to see. And then, if I'm messing it up or whatever, I'll go to the back and work on it. But I was like crushing this tap combo. I'm like, yeah, da, 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 like smiles. I'm like, oh, nailing it. Then they're like, okay, so there's also a section and I've got rhythm that's kind of, it's not tappy. So we're just going to do like a little bit of that part. I'm like, great. I have a dance background. I got this. Well, it's like ball change, kick, flick, shimmy, ba, 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 and leg hold. And I was like, and leg hold? We're doing,
excuse me,
a leg hold. So I can't really stand up in my situation right here, but all these girls,
hold on.
All these girls
I will make it work for this. She literally does this.
Wait. I have to set it up. So everyone's kind of marking it, right? Because you're learning the callback and everyone's marking. And so I'm like, I'm cool. And then when we actually go to do it, I'm like, tap, tap, fierce, fierce, dance, dance. And my leg holds Kelly's going to demonstrate if she can. Okay, so I was attempting to do the leg hold,
Okay.
and I knew that I couldn't do it, but I just went for it anyway. So it was like tap tap, smile smile, rocking it, cute little stuff, and then this
She's
was
like
my
this,
leg
she's like,
holds. It wasn't even 90 degrees. It wasn't even to the 90. Cut to, I have friends.
I only went to the 90 so that I could get my leg in
I had
the
friends
screen.
like picking their face, like a leg hold,
Right.
like a standard leg hold that flexible people can do, crushing
Mm.
it. My friend Jen Reyes, crushing it. My friend Casey. And to this day, I mean, I just went on a little vacation with them a few months ago and we were laughing about that story. I will say though, I still broke the roll.
Booked
And
and
I think because
blessed.
they probably booked and blessed. I think
Yeah,
because they
she did.
probably were like, hey, she went for it. I had the biggest smile on my face. And no, I could not. I'm so unflexible. And it's like an ongoing joke. Like even like I can't even sit like cross-legged without my knees coming up all crazy. So like anytime anything flexible comes into play in a show, I'm like, I'll be the turner. Give me all the turns. Okay. No leaps, no kicks.
No leaps.
I'm gonna be turning.
It's so funny, but it's made me a little delusional because growing up, I was the flexible one, but I'm not even flexible in terms of like what musical theater, like dancer flexibility is. And I go into rooms being like, yeah, I'm flexible. And then these girls are like, "Whoa," and I'm like, oh, no,
And Kelly,
I'm just more
okay,
flexible than
I
Charna, which is
also
not
think
flexible at all.
I think it is genetic. I don't think like we worked super hard and we stretched and we did all this stuff. Kelly
Oh,
and
for
I
sure.
did Gypsy together when we
I
were younger. Kelly was
love
baby.
Gypsy.
I know. I want to play Mama Rose. That's a dream role for me. But Kelly played Baby June and I played Dainty June. That was a really fun show we did together. Super fun. And you know the show, Christopher, and probably a lot of these people listening might know the show, but their Baby June is obviously the smaller version, and then she grows up and it's Dainty. So it's cute that we were sisters. And the funny part of Gypsy is that they repeat the same thing when she's 6 and when she's 18 or 16. So our choreography was to shane turn straight down center,
Mhm.
shane, slow down into the splits.
Cartwheel.
Hello, everybody. My name's June. Well, Kelly can do the splits. Charna cannot do the splits. So there were discussions of adding material to the bottom of my skirt because it needed to go. Yeah.
To hide
It-
her knee so she could go to
It was a
one
thing.
knee.
It was a thing. It's not my area of expertise, the flexibility moment.
It was,
It's all good.
no, it's not. It's not.
We just had a master class with a former student at OSHA, and she was like, I know if it's a dance call, that's my strength, and so I know where my strengths lie. Vocals, I have the talent and it's there, but it's not my strength, and I know I need to prepare more and I need to work more.
Right. Like if
And I think that's a thing.
I go in, I'm great with the singing, and now I'm really great with the marching.
When I met Christopher, he couldn't march correctly, Kelly. He marched
Yeah.
like this with
Oh.
the same arm, same leg.
Kelly Felthous.
Marching?
I
Oh,
was
no.
on everybody. I told you I would tell
It's a
you the
thing.
story. This might be that moment. So
Oh, no.
I was doing a production of Grey Gardens, and I was promised that I would not have to do choreography. At least that's what was in my brain. Maybe they were told a different story.
Choreography. He wasn't gonna have to do choreography. Marching
No,
is
it's not. I'm not there yet. I'm getting to the point.
Mm,
But
no,
also,
marching is marching.
okay,
It's
I'm feeling
walking
very
with
judged in
style.
this moment. But the point was, I was told I would sing in the ensemble. This is what I agreed to singing and acting and playing the piano. These are the things that I was like, yes, I will do this. And then there's 2 numbers. Now, granted, it was absolutely not choreography, but it was movement heavy, I'll say. But
Choreography
Yes,
adjacent. I
correct.
love using that term.
tangentially choreographical. But there was a portion of one of the songs that required marching, and I was on the biggest struggle bus of my life.
You were driving it.
I was driving the struggle bus. I then crashed the struggle bus and had to fix the struggle bus. So I came into class the next day. I was like, Charna, You have to help me. You have to help me fix this situation in my life. So she taught me how to march.
First, I laughed at you. I was like, "This is not a real thing. Like, come on!" And you're like, "No, I'm really struggling with it." I helped you.
That's actually very sweet. I find that that's very sweet.
Right? Sometimes you gotta help a friend. Well,
that's cute.
Christopher,
that's cute.
Bless his heart. One thing that Christopher has helped me in my life. Like I'm a dancer first and foremost. And so when I started teaching voice and we were working together, I would be like, okay, Christopher, can you please help me count this in correctly? Because every musical number I'd be like, and it's a 5, 6. He's like, Charna, no. Like
7, 8.
So I'd be like, look, Christopher, can you help me count this in, please?
Well, it would be like things like, and everybody does this. Anybody who's not like a music person will be like, all right, here's the tempo, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we go like 1, 2, 3. I'm like, that's not the tempo. That's not the tempo, no. Everybody.
Not the tempo.
No.
Oh, man.
Tempo. That's
okay,
so funny.
I don't know how we got onto the Crazy for You story.
Ballet. I was saying things that you need to be
thank you, Kelly.
I wish I would have told my younger self.
Okay, anything else? I love that one though. That take ballet
a little categorical. Take ballet. Well, and in a similar vein, take ballet also like do things you don't like because you should try everything. Like I hated ballet and I love that our mom was nice enough to be like, okay, cool, you did it. Let's take something else. Sometimes just because you don't like it doesn't mean it's not good for you. Like I wish I would have stayed playing the flute a little more because now, like, especially in terms of this industry, the more you can do, the better. The more well-rounded you are, the better. TV and film, especially, like, you know, you fill out these Actors Access and Casting Networks profiles and they're like horseback riding, roller skating, rollerblading, lacrosse. And you're like, what? You need to know if I do those? Like I sing and I dance and I act. But like, as you get into more TV and film and as theater evolves more, I'm like, I wish I would have taken, you know, that like jujitsu class. I wish I would have gone and studied abroad in Italy and learned about wine. I wish, because like things that you don't think are going to have any impact on, you know, your career actually do. And like just even being able to talk about things like that at parties or in audition rooms, it just being a well-rounded person, I think is important. So doing things that even though you're like, but I'm not good at it, or like, how is that going to help me? Do it.
Oh my
anyway.
gosh. I
Take
feel
it,
like every student that comes
it.
through integrated arts has heard that out of my mouth, like the conservatory that I run at Oshakel, because that's what they do. So they do a bit of everything. And I constantly have these kids that come in and they're like, but I'm a writer and a painter and improv scares me. I'm like, that's okay. Go in there and try and find something in that improv class that you can use. You're not going to be an actor, so you're not going to use improv to act. And they'll go in and then they'll be 2 years into college and they'll come back and they'll be like, Mrs. Lopez, I needed to come by and tell you that in my communications class or in my law class, I used the improv class that I learned. And I'm like, yes, see, it's for a purpose. And I think, Kelly, that's actually becoming a much more prominent thing at the college level. How you were saying in the theater, performance, acting, TV, film world. Yes. And even at college now, like it used to be, you need to be good at this one thing and you need to crush this one thing and you can come into our program. And now they're like, well, what else do you do? And what else makes you a cool human? And how are you a well-rounded, collaborative, problem-solving student / person / artist? And that's becoming more even in the workplace, in like non-performance workplace.
Well, and I will say, I think you and I, Charna, at least, were very fortunate that our mom did, like, I have this big joke and it's probably not true, but I'm like, I can do 30 seconds of anything. Like I can do enough to audition for anything. Like, can I roller skate with the best of them? No, but can I get it through an audition and do a cute little trick? Yes, I can.
That's the title of this, 30 seconds of anything. I love that.
30 seconds of anything. Well, and everyone laughs at me because I'm like, well, but literally, like, they're like, oh, do you speak this language? I'm like, no, but I can say a line in it. Like I can do an accent enough. Like I can like fake everything enough. And our mom was really good about letting us have these experiences. Like I learned how to sew, I learned how to bake, like I learned how to style my own wig or my hair. And like, because our mom kind of did everything, I feel like she really was kind of, her hand was in everything always. That I do feel like I did have a lot of that, but things that I'm like, I wish I would have done stuff that I knew I wasn't good at. I happen to be, and I'm not saying this as a brag, but I happen to be good at a lot of things. but I only do them long enough to be like, see, I was good. Bye. like not enough to like really understand why I'm doing it or like have it be a skill or even enough to like hate it. Like I wish I would have taken a martial arts or I wish I would have, been like, I'm going to go bike riding more. Like things that like in the moment I'm like, but I'm a dancer. I don't need to bike ride anywhere. And it's like, no, you do. Like do it.
Feeds into what you do. I will say, Kel, I remember something, and maybe you talked about this when you came to OSHA and did the masterclass with the Wicked choreography. I think that's when you talked about it. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. I hope these kids are listening to it. You were talking about learning dialects. And what's that class you took in college? What is it? It's yes. And you talk about there's like a certain thing. I don't remember what it's called.
There's creating the character. There's a dialect class. There's
and you were just saying to the kids, like, it seems boring when you're learning it and you're learning the different vowels and you're learning how they change.
Oh, IPA.
Thank you.
The International Phonetic Alphabet.
Thank you. And you were like, it seems boring. And it is boring in that moment. But you're like, if you could move forward 6 jobs forward, 8 jobs forward into your future, you're going to realize, oh my gosh, that has literally changed the way that I process this character, the way that I do my work, how much time and energy and effort I have to put into it. Like it gives you a shortcut. And I think it is inherently a boring class until you realize the benefit of it on the back end, right?
Well, that's kind of what I meant by ballet. Like I use ballet as an example of something I should have done specifically, but I use that as sort of like the metaphor of like, do the thing that's boring and hard because it's going to make all those things you love doing so much easier in the future. And I don't think I ever did the boring and hard things. I did the shortcut without actually doing the work to begin with that then makes it easier for the rest of your life.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like I didn't like stretching. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to drop into the splits. It's going to happen. But like now I have to fully like do a 20-minute warm up to get a split. Whereas people
longer 20 years old.
No, but you know what I mean? Like people who grew up stretching have that flexibility in them. I didn't.
Totally.
So now I'm like, oh, I have to work for it now. Whereas if I had just kept stretching, even though it was boring and stupid and warming up sucks and it's not fun, it's like, yeah, but if I had done that the whole time, now warming up would be a 5-minute warm up, not even, and my voice would be there versus me now being like, okay, 20 minutes. Let's do some straw phonation. We got this. And that's only something I started doing recently because you realize like, oh, I should have been doing that all along so that now it's not something that I'm like, what?
Totally. Hey,
should have taken ballet.
If you were not in the performance industry, if you were not in theater, film, TV, voiceover, that air, like, what is there another career that like
party planning? I'd want to plan parties.
Party planning.
Or event planner, like event planning.
I could totally see you doing that.
Well, so we talked about pandemic. You said you wanted to ask me about that later. Yeah. But this kind of plays into that. So the pandemic happened. We all know. Right. It's not a secret. And theater was gone.
It was on hold.
At least theater as I knew it was gone. And so many of
it was on
hold.
Pause, please.
Well, and so many of my friends, like another thing that I wish I wish I would have known back before. But like I'm very good at certain things. I'm great live. I think I am good live. I'm good in the room. I have good energy. I like talking. I like playing off of people. I am not let me record a song for you that then you can play on repeat.
Yes.
It gives me a lot of anxiety. Mm-hmm. I don't, nope. I don't like being myself. First of all, I'm like, what character am I? They're like, sing. I'm like, no, I don't mean, no, not Kelly. Like, who's singing? You're singing. No. And then also I'm like, now everyone can hear everything that's wrong with it. And they're not getting the energy that I'm giving in the moment. They're not feeling that electricity.
Yep.
So I during the pandemic was like, no, I don't want to do any of these readings, any of these concerts. They give me so much anxiety. So I just didn't do them. And all my friends were doing these here's a concert of this. I'm singing a song a day. And I was like, I can't do that. So I had to do a big shift and talk about improv. Acting, I am telling you, actors are the best employees in any type of work. I'm going to say it and I'm going to stand by it. Because we have great discipline as far as time management and as far as being on time, knowing what's expected of you. You better be in a half hour or you're going to get fined if you don't sign in. You have this work ethic that I don't think exists in
retail
day-to-day office work anymore or retail. No, but honestly, I was blown away by people in retail that I was like, you just aren't showing up. What? No, that doesn't no, You don't get to just not come in today. Like, I was like, are you dying? Because the only way I wouldn't do this, I was dying.
Yeah.
Like, and you're just selling clothing. Like, I did not understand. I did not comprehend. But over COVID, I almost acted my way. I'm sorry to the companies that are watching this. Acted my way into 2 positions that I had no right being in. No right. I was the assistant to the head of coordinated events for Lululemon for the experiential store. And I started out just as like an employee selling leggings. But I am an actor. And I'm like, okay, yeah, all I have to do, it's literally scene work. Every interaction with a guest is scene work. Like, I'm like, okay, you're talking to me. I know who you are. I can archetype you right now. You're clearly suburban. You clearly don't have a job because you're here on Monday at 3 p.m. You're buying $95 leggings. Great. Let's keep going character work. And then you know exactly what that person wants because you're like, I know you. I've literally created a character like you. So I'm going to have an interaction with you and tell you exactly what you want to hear because I know what you need to hear. And it ended up being like a fun little acting game for me. And I ended up being very good at it. And so people would be like, great, can we have Kelly host this shopping event? Can we have Kelly do this? And I was like, what? I don't know anything about any of this. And like, I ended up working my way up in a matter of 6 months to a job that people like were applying for with full degrees in like.
But see,
all these
Kelly,
things.
I
I was
actually
like,
want to go back and disagree with you because you said you didn't deserve to be like you had no business being in those positions. No, but because like you may not have had the traditional quote qualifications that they might have been looking for that type of position. But the fact that you were able to do the job successfully means you were absolutely qualified to do the job. You just had a different skill set that built into that. And I think that's another important thing to, as a takeaway. You may not think you're qualified for something, but what you have to bring to a situation might be even more than what they were looking for in the first place. You just never know.
I love that.
That was
Thank
beautiful. Well, so pretty.
She's like, thank you. I feel validated.
Well, and hilariously, so the next thing that happened was I ended up got poached, which I was like, that's a thing? People like steal you?
Yes, it's a thing.
To work as the stylist for Anthropology, which is like a job that people are like, people with all these like fashion institute degrees and design and like fashion buy. Cause like I was in charge of like deciding basically what we were gonna wear, like what people are gonna wear.
Your closet is magical.
It is magical between Lululemon and Anthropology.
Right? Jelly.
But it is so interesting because people like who worked there who were like, yeah, I applied for that job. And I was like, I'm so sorry because you went to school for 4 years for that.
Yeah.
And I just was like, belt it. I know costume design. You know what? This girl, like, I was like,
but that
goes
to
all
show
else fails, you say belt it, right? Like
what Christopher said. It goes to show that like, I think sometimes, and I'm going to tie it back even to education and getting to college and doing those things where our students feel like I have to be this one thing. I have to be this kind of person or this kind of student, and I have to follow this path to get here. And I love using, I mean, this is just another layer, Kelly, for you. When I talk about you and use you as an example, is a perfect example. But it's also the same with like, you don't have to, we have our friend Scott Barnhart's the same thing. He tells this story about how he wanted so badly to go to NYU and he didn't get into NYU. And he thought that his life as a performer and a musical theater person was over at the age of 17, you know, because he didn't get into the school that he wanted. And I tell these kids all the time, like, and you know, my friend Jen, you've met Jen, Kelly, it's the same kind of thing. Like Jen didn't even go to college. And it's okay. You don't, there's not one path. It's not one type of person. It's not the 9 steps that you check off and then you magically land. And it's the same thing with those jobs that you were just discussing. These people who've gone to school for fashion or whatever it may be and feel like I've got the leg up because I have this resume quality. And it's like, not always. And use your tools to your benefit.
Yes, and I think that's
well, and also I think
sorry, go right ahead, Kelly.
No,
you're the guest.
I am the guest. Oh my gosh, I'm a guest. I was gonna say, it's funny tying it back into theater. It is interesting because I had this conversation with a woman in Matilda recently because we talked a lot about like what theater is now post COVID and like who's working and how do you get work and what's on Broadway and what's successful, quote unquote, you know. And it's an interesting conversation to have. And it was so funny because someone said, "How are you not on Broadway?" And I said, "Well, that's very sweet of you to say." Also, like half the time I want to go, "Good question," but also like, no, but also it's like, okay, I've seen people who literally get Broadway shows without even, right out of college.
Mhm.
Our choreographer was Charlie Sutton for Matilda, and he's amazing. And he was in the original company of Wicked. After 1 week of Marymount Manhattan, he dropped out and did the original company of Wicked.
Love it.
Of course, that's what you're going to do.
Right.
And it was so interesting because he was like, yeah. And he's like, and you ended up doing Wicked at some point. And I was like, yeah, after a lot of different things. And he goes, but also I did Wicked for 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
And while you were doing, and like in my head, I'm like, and that's why I left Wicked. Like people often ask, like, why did you leave that tour? What were you thinking? And I was like, because I wanted to create things. Like I wanted to play characters. I wanted to meet new people. I wanted to feel that energy of like the first rehearsal and, these people in a rehearsal room creating new things. And Wicked is magical. It is amazing. It is an amazing musical. I'm so lucky I got to do it. I learned so much, but also you're not creating, you're recreating what's in a book that you're told to do. And there is a skill to that. And I had to learn it because I did not have it.
Well, that is your job, right?
It is your job. That's your job.
I think Jessica Vosk was talking about that a few years ago. I remember her saying something to me about like, your job in that position is not to be a creator or even necessarily a performer. It's to do what the director has asked you to do and to be that vessel.
Especially something that's already so established in the way it is, and you're being brought in. You're not creating the character, right? Like you mentioned, Kelly doing Max and Ruby and doing Bring It On and being in those productions from the ground up and having that creative kind of like flexibility. When you go into a show that's been around for a little while, that's exactly it. It's like, this is where we are and how it's working. So just jump in and do it. A funny story about when I saw Kelly do Wicked, I flew. So you were the cover, the understudy. I can't remember.
Yeah, I was the understudy.
And she was in Seattle, somewhere in Washington. She's like, not Seattle. Where in Washington? I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
I have no idea.
And she's like, I'm going on. And I'm like, I will hitchhike my way to Washington to see Kel. Got on a flight, figured it out, got there, got to see her go on. And I was like a weirdo. I like sat on the edge of my seat. I was like, oh my God. I was like so obsessed with her in this show. First of all, I love that show. Love that show. So then afterward, we like see her at the stage door and she's like so famous. I'm like, oh, Kelly. And she's like, oh my gosh, Charna. Like after all the like people left, she's like, did you hear that I sang the wrong words in Popular? I was like, I didn't even notice me.
So she saw my first time on. That was my first time on.
Awesome.
You were fabulous. And for the fact, like, I know I've seen her in a million things. I'm like, yeah, your voice cracked. Yeah. Saw you not do that right. Like you see it and because it happens as a performer, but I was so enthralled by your performance, Kelly, that I did not even notice that you messed up.
Do you remember what words you messed up to this day?
Oh yeah. I have, so a fan who is very sweet gave me a bootleg because it was my first show. So I have a bootleg, audio recording of that entire show. So if I ever want to listen to me sing all the wrong lyrics, I can.
Did you just sing a verse twice? I think you sang the same verse twice.
I sang a verse twice. I said la 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 la, we're gonna make you popular. Basically when it goes very very popular like me is how it's supposed to go, right? I went it'll make you popular like me. Because I did not sing the right verse. I sang that same first verse twice.
But you know what?
And then it had to say like me somehow. So in the quiet, I was like,
but you know what, Kelly? You made it work. You made it work.
Oh, she always does.
That's the
thing.
thing.
You know, my mom was like, no, you didn't. You didn't sing the wrong words. And she's like, yes, Mom.
I did.
I did sing the wrong words. She's like, no, you're perfect.
Trust me.
You're perfect. I'm like, well, I think
also
she might have sang the wrong words.
I sang the wrong things. Also, there's that pink flower that's in your hair. Yes. You're supposed to go pink goes good with green, and mine had fallen out.
Oh.
And because I was like spastic.
She
and
was
they didn't tell you
it.
that because I hadn't had a lot of rehearsal yet, and they didn't tell me that there's an extra one in the shoes.
Oh.
Because apparently it falls out a lot because the Glindas go crazy. And I was like, oh, smart. So if you feel like it's not there, you go get your flower and you put it in. No one told me. So in my head, I was like, what on me is pink that I can put on her? So I literally took my lipstick. Do you remember that? And I went, pink is good with green. I was like almost in tears, not because I was laughing, because I was like, this is my first show as Glinda, the like this
I love
epic
it.
role and everything has gone wrong in the one number that everyone knows.
But I didn't even notice.
But I made it
And
work.
I think that's what's so cool. Okay, we are like gonna
No,
be.
and our dance captain didn't notice. They were
See?
like, she was like, I had no idea. She's like, I just was so excited that you were doing so good. And I was like,
This is
it
what I'm
was
saying.
bad.
We probably like have 5 more minutes. Got to wrap it up. Kind of get
Okay.
things moving. I have a
Yeah.
couple other questions, and then Christopher, I feel like I've dominated this conversation, but
That's
I'm allowed
okay.
to. It's my sister.
That's right. It's your sister.
Keebs, currently
Yes.
on Broadway or going to be going up this year, are there any shows that you're like pumped to go see? Like take the
And Juliet.
Okay. I knew
That's
it.
the one, apparently.
So I saw that on the West End.
I want to see Anne Juliet so bad.
and I texted Kelly right after. Do you remember?
I want to be in Anne Juliet so bad.
I texted her right after I saw it. I was like, so there's this role in this show, and Julia, and I feel like it's for you. I'm excited for you to see it. I think that we'll have to circle back and talk about it after you've seen it. That was like such a quick answer.
And I want to see Kimberly Akimbo is the other one.
I love
Very
that.
different shows.
Yeah, but that's
Those are
exciting.
the two that I want to see. Yeah.
Christopher, do you have any other questions or topics you feel like you'd love to ask
I
my lovely
think
sister?
that, I think we covered a lot today.
Mhm.
So no, I mean, Kelly's just such an interesting human. So I just could sit here
And-
all day and just
Wait,
like
For
be
those of you
a
who
fly
are
on the
listening,
wall.
Can
And
I
not-
say one more thing?
yeah. Oh, please go.
You're
No,
the
'cause we
guest.
kind
You're
of-
the
we kind
guest.
of-
You
I
can do
didn't-
what you want.
I didn't finish one thing that I think is really important because it's something I'm coming to terms with right now and still struggle with and still think about constantly is like what equals success now and what equals success as an actor. And everyone thinks Broadway, Broadway, Broadway. The thing everyone likes to talk about from my resume is Wicked. And to me, I'm like, yeah, it was fun and it was good, but it's because it's the most successful show and it's on Broadway and everyone knows it. And to me, I'm like, I'm really proud of Max and Ruby. I'm really proud of Dames at Sea at Moonlight Amphitheater. Like, I think success in this business varies from person to person. I think you can be on Broadway for 12 years and still not be as successful as someone who does regional theater their whole life.
Yes.
I think
Reach.
it depends on what you want to do. And I personally chose, like, I left Wicked to create things. Do I want to be on Broadway? Heck yeah. Do I want that to happen? Yes. But also, I'm like, you know what? I also want to make art and I want to tell stories and I want to be in a rehearsal room with people that want to do that same thing that aren't like, how can we make money? How can we do this? Who's going to do this? Can you sing higher? Sing higher, sing higher. Like that just gives me anxiety and does not bring me any joy. And I think it's shifting right now as to what is successful and what is good theater.
I love that.
And
I
I'm
love
excited
that.
to see where it goes.
I
And
think
that was my big thing
that's
with that.
so good for not only, I know we are so student centered because that's our world, but I think that's good for adults too. Just
Yes.
people who are in this industry. And that's such a great reminder, Kelly. Like, I think sometimes in that world, it just gets so, this is the only path, the only way to be successful. I just thought of one more thing I wanted to ask you. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Would you ever want to direct anything or choreograph or
Yes.
like be on the,
Yes.
I like how she
Yes.
moved forward. The answer is yes.
No, yes.
I feel like
that
hearing
would
you
be my
talk
dream.
today about like you wanting to be creative and the creative side of things and loving creating characters, I feel like that seems like a seamless kind of transition. That would be really cool for you.
I think I would love that. I've started dance captaining more because I like being on the other side and I like the teaching aspect of it. But more and more as I work with more directors, I'm like, I would like to direct. Not because they're not great, but because I'm like, as an actor, feel like things are missing. No, but I feel like things are missing from the way people run a rehearsal room. And it's because we're like, get it up on its feet. We got to make it move. We got to make it move. Okay. We've seen this show 25 times. You know what you're doing, right? Do that. And it's
Yeah.
like, can there be other discussions? And I do feel like everyone is so unique. And that's what I think theater is so cool. Like you said, know your strengths.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm not a soprano. I don't even like singing. Singing makes me nervous. I wish I liked singing. I wish I enjoyed it more. And people are like, but you're a great singer. I'm like, no, but I don't that's not what I bring to things. Like
That surprises
I was
me
up for
that you
Legally-
said that actually.
everyone says that. So I was up for Legally Blonde at Paramount Theater here in Chicago. And it's like a big, big theater. It's where I did Sally Bowles. And I literally was going into it and I was like, I should not book this. I cannot book this. And they're like, why? And I was like, because I'm an acting L. Like, I am not someone you turn on the recording and listen to her belt her face off. I'm someone who you can see me cry during Legally Blonde and you can see the like nervousness when I sing so much better. Like not the pristine, crystal clear high belt that people go dead in the eyes to get. Like, that's not what I do. And that's okay. And I'm trying to embrace that that's okay, because Broadway right now seems to be like, how high can you sing? And I'm like,
Yeah.
but I'm more than a,
Don't get me started.
I'm more than a high E.
I'm hoping though,
I am
Kel,
more than a
that
high E.
it starts to go the other way again, because I feel like when we were younger, that wasn't quite the thing yet. And I
It
feel like
wasn't.
we had
No, it
these
wasn't.
idols and these performers and these famous, quote unquote, musical theater people who we looked up to, that you could sing the songs they sang and you
Yep.
weren't trying to like scroll your face off. And Christopher and I see that all the time now, where these kids want to sing these insane songs and they're like, but that's what we have to pull from. These are all these
You should
modern
not be belting
musicals.
a high E. That's my
Yeah.
standard.
No,
You
it's
should
not.
not
It's
be.
actually not.
It's not okay.
Not healthy
No.
to do.
Right.
So, and I thoroughly believe that what's missing from theater now is the people, like the humanity and who people are. And like the fact that sometimes you can see a show and see that 4 different people do the same role and not remember who was who is weird to me. Like that should
Yes.
not be the case.
That's
Like, that should
crazy.
not
But
be,
that's kind of
that
what
should not be
I
happening.
100% agree with you, but that's kind of what it is, because that's the for lack of a better term, because I do love Disney, but it's like the Disneyfication
No.
Yep.
of Broadway.
Well,
Yeah.
Because
it's
I
the
mean,
machine of it all.
Mhm.
It's Wicked. It's
Yes.
and Wicked is again, it's moving and it's manufactured emotions.
Yes.
Right.
And to me, what I love about live theater is that it's live and that those
Yeah.
emotions are real and present. And like, I can manufacture tears for TV. I've done it and it's great. But like, I leave the stage being like, okay, like,
Yeah, yeah.
I leave set being like, cool. Let's
That
go to craft
side of
services.
theater, Kel, probably still exists in certain areas and in certain things. And you see these places that are doing original work. And we have a theater out here by us called the Chance Theater. And they do a lot of stuff like that, where I feel like it's not your mainstream. It's kind of the off the wall. I've seen some really great things. I've seen some not so really great things. But I think the idea of just experimenting and balancing out like this big name show that we're going to bring, and because some of those are great too, but it's that balance of having those.
Yeah.
And I think it's fulfilling as a performer, right? Like,
Well, exactly. That's why like Wicked was great, but I left being like, did my job.
Yeah.
Which like to me, I'm like, maybe it's naive of me and maybe it's like I've romanticized the arts, but like I love that. Like I
Yeah.
am a hopeless romantic and loving in the arts. And like to me, I want to leave being like, I left it all out there.
Totally.
Oh, they felt it. Like no one in that audience is like no one else will get to see what that audience saw. And how amazing is that?
I love that,
Like,
Cal.
that's why you see a show 20 times
Well, and-
is to feel the new feelings.
I want to go back. I'm going to find it, and maybe I don't know. We can when we have you on again, because we're going to have you on again at some point. It was your review of Sally Bowles, and I remember it must have been a social media post because it had your picture, and I was like, okay, fierce. First of all, it was like kind of silhouetted. I was like, ew. And then it had your little snippet of your review, and it mentioned that about your acting and like the raw talent and just the raw
Yeah.
emotion on stage. And so you clearly nailed that.
Well, I think Chicago has been kind to that. And I do think I've been lucky enough to be in rooms where I've had the courage. A, I've had the courage. B, no one's gotten too mad at me when I go, can I try something different?
I love
And when they
that,
let you,
though.
and then they go, wow, yep, yes. And you're like, see, if you just would let someone like show you their emotions, and like everyone's emotions are different, but they're all grounded in the same thread. It's like they're all going to be relatable if you just let someone show you what they can do.
Yeah, have
I think
actors have a little
magic
more
can
take in it.
happen.
Are we allowed to talk about your next gig that I'm going to get to go see? Is that like a thing yet or
The
not?
next one, yes.
Okay.
No, that one is. I think that one's fine.
So- okay.
Well, this isn't going to air
Yeah,
for a couple
so
weeks.
she-
Yeah,
so.
you'll be fine. I'll be in
So,
rehearsal.
I'm freaking out because I first of all haven't even seen Kelly in person for a while, which is weird, and I haven't seen her perform in a very long time. And my kids get to come see her do Kinky Boots. So
Yes.
so Kelly's playing. Lauren? Is that her name? Lauren.
Yeah.
Kelly's playing Lauren, which I feel like when I saw Kinky Boots on Broadway, same kind of thing. I remember being like, so Kelly, there's a role for you on Broadway in the show Kinky Boots. Like, I feel like it's just so you. It's going to be really fun for you. I get to go see that. And I feel like maybe after we go and we do the trip and we see it, I would love to bring Ruby and Sebastian and you on the podcast with Christopher and kind of like talk about the experience from like a family side of it and everything. I think would be fun. So if you're in the Orlando
cry.
area in April, Kelly will be doing Kinky Boots there. And then after that, she's doing more shows. I don't want to get her in trouble in terms of
Yeah, we
what
can't
she's
say those
booked. So
ones
I'm
yet.
I'm going to keep it on the DL, but you can follow her on Instagram. What's your handle?
At Kelly Felthous.
At Kelly
No
Felthous.
E on the end of Felthous.
Felthous, no E. We already talked about the names in our previous podcast. Our my maiden name Felthous, was a lot of things. Fleetus, Felthous, Felthous. It's just Felthous with no E.
Material, dwelling, no E. That's how I describe it. Material,
Felt,
dwelling, no E.
house.
Felt, house,
No
no
E.
E.
So follow her at Kelly Felthous. You can follow along in her journey. She's actually pretty good on her Insta when she's doing shows and keeping everyone up to date. And then subscribe to us. Christopher, I'm going to let you do the plug. I always like you doing the plug.
So check us out at uncommonpod.com, subscribe on YouTube on our channel, and follow us on Instagram at Charnopher Official. We'll have so much fun.
Kelly, thank you. I love you. I love you because you're my sister, but
I love you.
I love your sharing, and I appreciate your honesty and your insight. And I'm excited to have you back on at some point. So thanks for your time this morning, and thanks for your leg hold, for your Charna leg hold.
You're welcome. It was worth it.
Thank you so much, Kelly. We so appreciate you coming on and hanging out with us.
The best.
And thanks to everyone who's listening. Woo-hoo. Listen more.
For sure. All right. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.
This concludes another episode of Uncommon Sense. If you're ready for more of this fresh, hilarious, and unique perspective on the world of entertainment, education, and life, be sure to subscribe right now to catch every episode. If you gasped, laughed out loud, or even snorted, share the show with your friends and aspiring entertainers because, let's be real, sharing is caring. For more Charnopher, tune in to their witty insights by checking out the website uncommonpod.com or connecting on social media. Tune in next week and get the real insider scoop on another episode of Uncommon Sense.